Half a day, and the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, Housing is now called to order. We have returned from actually a recess. We were taking care of one bill, and I thank the Department of Land Management for their patience. Notice for this budget hearing was disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice was issued on July 12th and then followed on July 16th. The committee will hear and accept testimony on Bill 55-36 COR, the fiscal year 2022 Appropriation Act as requested by the Governor, relative to the Department of Land Management's fiscal year 2022 budget request. I'd like to acknowledge the senators that have joined me this afternoon. We have the Oversight Chair, Speaker Therese Arlayo of the Department of Land Management. We have Senator Tello Taitagui and Senator Joanne Brown. The general rules for this public hearing. Those testifying on behalf of Bill 55-36 COR relative to the Department of Land Management have been invited to the panel, and they are Mr. Joe Bora and Ms. Virginia Flores. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopy. Testimonies may be read, and lengthy testimony should be summarized to about 5 minutes. But Mr. Bora will allow you all the time you need. We're going to discuss your budget, okay? Those testifying will be allowed to present oral testimony. Once you're done, please remain in the room for additional questions or additional testimony, as may be desired by the members of the committee. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda, which is the budget of the Department of Land Management. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of the general rule of conduct will result in removal from this budget hearing. Proper form decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form decorum may be restricted from providing oral testimony and or may be asked to leave or actually will be removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and your title for the record. At this time, I ask the panel to please rise as the Sergeant at Arms will swear you in. Sir, ma'am.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you all affirm that any and all information that you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Mr. Chair, you're under oath, you may proceed.
Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. Mr. Bora will now ask you to please present your budget for 2022, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Senator San Agustin, Senator Talahi, Senator Joanne Brown, Senator Taitagui. Thank you for the opportunity to present the budget for the Department of Land Management for fiscal year 2022. The mandate when I came into the department close to 2 years ago, interrupted by COVID, was basically to split the three agencies that were at one time together, the Department of Land Management, the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, and the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission. Secondly was to stabilize the Department of Land Management. And third was to build capacity for the department. Upon reviewing, my apologies, to my left is Virginia Flores, the Department of Land Management's Administrative Services Officer. Thank you. The department does not have any outstanding personnel services obligations. We do have a long-running retirement fund bill of approximately $150,000 for one employee and another employee for $25,000. I believe those are being processed to take care of those so that these employees can retire. The department has also procured the majority of our budget supplies and equipment for the year, and projections indicate that we might be having a lapse of approximately $8,000. The department does not have any capital outlay project, and the department has a draft plan for any additional funds allocated to the department outside of what our budget ceiling is. The federal assistance funds that the department has received and expended, known as a TAP grant of about $309,000, we have just about spent and obligated all of those funds, and Ms. Flores can give the details on that. The department's budget this year is sufficient to meet the true needs of the department. to meet its core mission and objective. The one item that we are lacking is in 2021, the department had a budget of approximately $690,000 for office space rental. In fiscal year 2022 budget, we are asking for $577,000, which leaves us short of about $132,000 in office space rental. However, revenue coming into the department is very, very good. For example, as of June 21, the department has brought in accumulative funds of the documentary taxes, recording fee, and the other accounts which we receive money of approximately $2.4 million this year. Last year, at this time, we had brought in only $2.1 million, and previous to that, in fiscal year 2019, we brought in at this time $2.3 million. And like I said, we are tracking bringing in roughly $300,000 a month. And if we do keep on that track, we would probably bring in approximately $3.1 million in fiscal year 2021. The department's challenges now basically is our retirement profile of our staff. We have 34 staff members in the Department of Land Management. 19 of them are eligible for retirement, and of those 19, 10 are on the upper years, over 25 years of service on that. So that's basically what our issue here at the Land Management that we are trying to address is the retirement profile of our department. This year we are slated to have 2 more staff members retire, and 1 is moving to another position at DPW. So we're looking at, just in the normal process, we're looking at losing 3 employees this year. 2 to retirement and 1 to another position within the Gov Guam. And that's it, Mr. Chairman. I would be open for any questions that the panel might have.
Thank you, Mr. Borja. Because we've had a meeting with your office and with OB, and you pretty much answered all the questions I need to ask you. Only one item actually is, I think you mentioned something that you may be a little bit short for rental space. Am I correct? Did you mention?
In our budget, yes. We are looking at shortfall in our budget of about $132,000 in our rental.
Okay. So that would be, if you could get 132, you'd be taken care of until we figure out a way how to get your building built, right?
Yes, and that should probably be the subject of another meeting.
Yes,
Senator.
yes, sir. All right. Madam Oversight Chair, Madam Speaker, do you have any questions for the panel?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thanks for having this hearing for Department of Land Management. Thank you, Director Borja and Ms. Flores. The spreadsheet that we're looking at was provided by OFB, and so it indicates that in the Director's office, the variance is $108.9 million less than last year's appropriation. And is this where the rent is showing? Is that why it's short? Or what will be shorted if we go with this number? It looks like the Director's office is going to be short $108,000.
$108,000. That's what she's asking, the difference. This amount. This is what from the difference. Rental. Yes, that's the rental, Speaker.
So it's pretty much the rent, and that's what you were acknowledging, is that the shortfall that we're seeing in your request versus what you received last year is rent.
That's correct.
Okay. And the, what about this GIS, LIS? It looks like you are making no request for that in this year's budget. Is that acceptable?
Yes, it is, and I'll tell you why, Senator. In that GIS division, LIS division, which stands for Geographic Information System and Land Information System, there were actually four employees in that division at one time. One was a Computer Systems Analyst 2, and 2 were data entry clerks. 3 actually were data entry clerks. One of the data entry clerks had not come into the department for about, I believe, 2 years. And when I came in, she subsequently moved to another department over to DOE. That the 2 other data entry clerks have been basically transferred over to the records division. That's what they do really, is enter data from the documents recorded. The other employee there, which is the Computer Systems Analyst 2, I transferred that position to the director's office. And that position has not been, it's been funded, but it has funds for that division, position have not been expended. That person has been out on sick leave maybe 9 months already, and he's already going on donated leave.
All right, I guess, but don't we need people in the GIS division?
Yes, we do, but their functions, those 4 functions, the functions that they had, the data entry and the GIS, LIS maintenance, that's basically been taken over by OTEC. And that computer systems analyst at this point, at least when he got ill, was basically a messenger to the OTEC about our problems in there.
Okay, so you're satisfied with OTEC doing this part of land management's mandate?
They're mandated to do that under the law, Senator, Speaker.
I know, but I still want to make sure that land management,
Yes.
from your end, you're the one who's dealing with the customers,
Yes.
right? The consumers, and is it adequate?
Yes, yes it is.
Okay, and then the land survey. So this shows that we're asking less this year for land surveying than last year, and that concerns me. I think many agencies are calling on you regarding, you know, their needs for land, and we are still trying to get land registrations done, and we are also looking to you to approve all the land surveys that are going on in the private sector. So is this also going to be adequate, less than what you received last year?
Yes, this is adequate because one of the positions there left the department, a senior cartographic supervisor, went over and got a better job over at, a better paying job over at GPA. She was one of our senior things, so we're kind of like...
I know, so they left, so you don't need to pay, you don't need to fill it, but you're saying not filling that doesn't hold the department back from fulfilling its mandate either?
Actually, we filled that position already, Senator, yes.
Okay, so why is it less? You just underfilled it, something?
Yes, it was part of, this new employee didn't take up, is taking up the balance of whatever
Okay.
the employee that went to GPA.
So you believe that the land surveying division is fully equipped enough to handle the demands on the land surveying division?
Well, and thank you for the keyword equip, because
Yes.
that's what we're lacking is equipment. We have the staff to actually do 2 survey crews, but our equipment is only, we only have equipment for 1 survey crew.
And how much have you estimated another set of equipment would be?
$276,000, Senator.
And when you say 2 survey crews, is that within Department of Land Management, or are those the crews shared with CLTC?
No, that's within the Department of Land Management. There are 2 staff members assigned to the Department of Land Management from Chamorro Land Trust Commission, but they basically review Chamorro Land Trust maps, not the general maps that the department, the survey division handles.
Okay, because it's my understanding land management and CLTC are helping each other with their surveying out in the field?
Yes, we have 2 people in the, 2 engineering technicians, I
Yes.
believe, yes. That they were previously also land management employees. And they were picked up by Chamorro Land Trust maybe about a year ago, maybe more than a year ago.
If you received the money for the equipment, What can we expect in FY22 if you receive this additional equipment?
To be able to do surveys concurrently. Right now, if a lot of our urgent surveys involve land disputes or disputes with easements, where the Department of Land Management is requested to come out and conduct surveys. But most of these are easements and not really private property disputes. If they're a dispute between two private property owners, then it's their obligation to get a private surveyor. The government doesn't come in and survey that kind of dispute. If there is a dispute about an alignment of a road, a public access easement, then we come in and we survey those things.
And do you have enough demand for this type of surveying to justify that we should give you the equipment? Are there enough money for the equipment? I mean, in other words, if you get the money for the equipment, you have a full demand. We could literally, like you said, do concurrently double the amount of product or surveys that are done?
Actually, Senator, right now we have a backlog of about 6 survey requests from mayors concerning misalignment of easements and a dispute with a private property owner as to where the easement is, where that public easement is. There is a backlog of about 6 cases like that.
What about approval of maps? Does this money help you to approve maps?
Approval of maps is in-house. They don't really do surveys. It's basically a review. And we recently hired a cartographic supervisor, and we're looking at promoting a couple of the engineering technicians and engineering aides up to another level, and then hopefully be able to recruit for that position. Okay,
so can I interpret that to mean there's no backlog in the approval of the maps, but the surveying, there's a little bit of a backlog?
Yes, in the types of surveying, because to do a survey job, the mobilization, the setup, it's the same for any job. Some jobs are bigger than others, but there are a lot of these types of surveys, and they come actually from the mayor's office, mayor's offices in that municipality. So yes, we're comfortable with that. There's no backlog in terms of map review. I do get calls from people saying, where is my map? We check with the division, and it's usually at the surveyor who has to do some revisions on it. But the backlog really is with the mayor's request for these. They call them simple and easy surveys, but they're just as complex as large surveys. All
right, and what about land registration surveys? Is there still a need for those? I know at Chamorro Land Trust there is.
Yes, Senator, and just this year we filed 2 land registration cases, one for Lot 286 PD next to the Veteran Cemetery, and another one concerning a Bucart Trail in Talafofo, Lot 424. I know that's only 2 land registration cases, but previous to this, I don't know if any land registration cases were filed.
Yes, so, I'm concerned about that, and I want to know how many do you expect to do in FY22 with your current budget proposal?
These land registrations come in, Senator, sporadically, but the majority of unregistered lands are in the Chamorro Land Trust inventory. So yes. I believe there's about 70 lots in the Chamorro.
They have a lot, but what about you? What about the government properties? We don't need to make it a priority to register those? I'm worried about, I don't want to go back to the issues that we had in the past.
No, Senator, the majority of the lots that are land registered are properties basically up in the hills. We don't have too many of these small unregistered lots, and those take a great amount of effort to survey and land registration. My experience is that since the inception of the Organic Act, I believe the Government of Guam has only filed 150 land registration cases since 1950. I don't have a list right now of how many parcels of land that the government claims that have not been registered. I do know of at least 12, and that 12 actually list was actually provided, requested by the Chamorro Land Trust Commission for land management to register those properties. Land registration surveys could also be undertaken by private surveyors, of course, under contract with the government. But I don't have a figure, Senator, on how many unregistered lots that the government of Guam claims. I only have the information for the Chamorro Land Trust, 70 lots, about 2,000 acres for the Chamorro Land Trust. For the government of Guam, I really don't know. I know the Land Trust did a survey, not land survey, but just taking a list, and they came up with that number of 70 lots. And of course, they were the ones that were pushing that initiative, because if land gets land registered now, it almost automatically goes to the Chamorro Land Trust. And to begin with, they had 70 in their inventory that's already unregistered.
All right, so you don't have an estimate of how many registration you expect during FY22?
No, we set a goal, I believe, of about 4 land registration surveys per year. And I think we have that in our budget request.
Okay.
You know, they asked for the deliverables on there. I think the number we use is 4.
Okay, that's what I want to know. And then the land records, it's almost a status quo budget. It's just additional $30,000. And I just wanted to know, the land records, is this including your increasing the access electronically for consumers?
No, and that really doesn't really cost any money to grant access for these consumers. However, what I think the public wants is to be able to sit down at their house on a Sunday night and do some research using information from land management. We have not been able to do that. And the reason for that, Senator, is there is a concern from Oak Tech about security entering our system. When we came into land management, when I came into land management, 1/2 of the computers did not meet the security protocol that Oak Tech has established.
Yes.
The computers were outdated on that for
So
security.
we talked about that, and we talked about, years ago, how the change from, before you were there to now, there was a change in vendors, and the access has dramatically changed. And so I thought it was the goal of land management to increase the access to consumers, just as you described, from their homes or wherever they are on the road. And you're saying that that's not a goal right now because of security concerns?
That is a goal, Senator. It's very much a goal because we see that as a revenue generating process. However, we're not satisfied with the security protocols to be able to allow that. As a matter of fact, about 3 months ago, I actually stopped processing these requests for access into the system, outside access. They can come into land management, sit down at the terminal,
Yes.
and do your research. But to be able to do it outside of the site, your home or your office, that is not, we're not looking at that at this point because of the security protocol.
Okay, so right now, there's no plan to get around that security protocol or work with it for FY22?
Yes, there is, Senator, and actually we started in FY 2021 with the acquisition or the application for the TAP grant, which we received $309,000. But when we're dealing with this, we actually have to deal with 5 issues. Number 1 is your hardware. So we address that by looking and getting that TAP grant. Number 2 is the software to operate the system. And number 3 is the data that is in there, that has to be accessed. And number 4, of course, is a staff member that is trained to be able to navigate that data system. We've gotten the hardware. The data is in there already. We are looking at recruiting a computer systems analyst too, to help with that singular position that we have. And of course, once we decide on the software and the training, that's what hopefully we'll complete that. We have hesitated getting the software at this point because we want to be cohesive and coherent with the Department of Revenue and Taxation, because they also feed off our data to generate the real property taxes. So yes, we are looking at that. That is still a goal to do that.
You hope to accomplish that during FY22?
Yes, using the $309,000 TAP grant.
For the hardware?
Hardware, the maintenance, I believe there's $90,000 in that grant for maintenance, which is basically the software maintenance and of course the data and the... So we don't have that in our budget, but we got that grant, I believe, maybe
I remember
9 months
when you were
ago,
applying for that. I
As a
think it
matter-
was
and
during the
thank you for-
pandemic, right? Yeah. So that
Yes,
was-
and thank you for your letter of support to
You're
get
welcome.
that grant, Speaker.
Okay, so we can expect this for during FY22 to get around the security and make it more accessible?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Can I ask, we had talked at one point about rates for, especially the Guam Land Use Commission, you know, and do you expect to raise any rates or propose any rate or fee, I guess their fee increases or not?
You know, yes, we are. As a matter of fact, it not only, you know, we're not only looking at it at my tenure, but previous directors, at least immediately before me, did present to the legislature, well, to the oversight chair at that time, a bill to increase or review the fees for the Department of Land Management, not just the Land Use Commission, but also for land management and all. Those fees are actually in statute, you know, needing a law to change it. They're not rules and regulations, so it would necessitate a legislative bill to adjust those fees.
Yes, I remember, I don't know about my predecessor, but last year I did introduce a bill
Yes.
to adjust the fees, but it needed some input from your side as well. So I'm just curious, is there still a desire to do that or not? Do you feel a need? At the time, I thought it was necessary in order to help process those land use applications quicker. However, you have increased your staff in that area, and I see that they look pretty efficient now.
Yes, but there's still, I mean, especially in COVID times, you know, the process is when you put in an application for GLUC action, you have to notify the people around you. And under the law, it's required to be certified mail. And, you know, certified mail, if there's 50 landowners around you, that's 50 pieces of mail, 50 forms to be filled out. And then that Department of Land Management employees actually goes up to the post office and gets in line to process 50 to sometimes 100 letters for certified mailing like that. So there is a great amount of labor involved, you know, in getting those, and not only in getting the information, but in mailing it out, which has to be certified mail. And I believe the amount for that certified mail is in statute. So if the post office raises its rates,
Yes.
We cannot react fast enough to adjust those rates.
Well, if your agency has done an analysis and has a proposal, I'm very much willing to look at that to assist, because you're right, they are set in statute, a lot of them. Or, what about, what percentage of, I guess, your work would you say is looking into land requests for land from other government agencies?
I wouldn't say that there, you know, it's hard to tell on a percentage, but there have been a lot of agencies really that are looking to do it. And this time around, it's a little different, I guess, from previous years, in that these federal agencies that are willing to give grants to Gov Guam departments relative to buildings and land, they now require that that division or that department actually, you know, owns the land. There was an experience over with Federal Highway, I believe, when they had the GRTA facility down here in Agana. Legislature took that away and gave it to the Agana mayor. And I think the federal agencies kind of looked at that and said, you know, if we're going to give you some money for a building or something relative to land, we would like for that particular agency to not only have administrative jurisdiction, but in a lot of cases, they're asking for title of the land. For example, the GRTA bill
Yes.
recently, right?
Yes, I'm asking because of that, because almost all the agencies that I talk to make it sound like they're in discussions with you for land for their agencies, and I'm just wondering if, yeah, that's consuming all your time. For example, the hospital, on the bill to discuss the hospital, they had said you were doing a lot of research to determine, I guess, the easement and the boundaries of, is that it?
We have the new hospital, we have the new public health facility, Guam Police always looking for property for their facilities, GRTA, DISIT,
EPA.
EPA, you know, that EPA, that's thank you for reminding me about that one. So we do have quite a bit of agencies. Are they a lot? I wouldn't say that they're a lot, but almost all of them are time-driven, meaning
Time-driven,
there's
yeah,
a
grants,
grant
yes.
coming up, and I got to get this, you know.
What
right
about,
away.
does it detract from your work, your other work for regular consumers, I guess? You know, does it require the surveying teams to mobilize and, you know, take them away from other work or not?
Once they determine that that is the lot that they want, yes, there is a retracement survey to know where their boundaries are. In most cases, there is already an approved map of that particular parcel, but in a lot of cases, the points may not be there, and of course, the agency, you know, wants to see how far their property goes on there.
All right. What is the work that you did for the hospital lot up there? You did the surveying or no?
Yes, we are doing the surveying out there. The actual, you know, that lot up there, Senator, or that parcel up there, it is up on high as the, you know, top selection for that, but there are also two other areas that are kind of like backup areas that we're looking at. But yes, the Department of Land Management is conducting the survey up at that lot in Manila.
All right. And are there height restrictions on that property?
Initially, there was a height restriction of 30 in our conversations with the Navy, that there is a height restriction because of the NEXRAT weather radar there. And at the time, though, when we met with them, they came back and said, let's look at this again because there is information that out there that we may be able to bring it up to 60 feet.
All right. Is there a, I'm almost done, Mr. Chair. I know I'm taking a while, but okay, so you are not, there's nothing on the table right now, proposal to increase fees. You're going to let me know if you're looking at that. Otherwise, I'm considering it that not a need because there's been no real discussion about it recently. And the other one is the permitting. So that task force you were part of to consolidate all the permitting and make it, you know, fast track permits. What is your role in FY22 for that?
Senator, concerning the fees first, there's already a bill drafted, you know, to increase the fees, to review it and increase it, and those will just need updating on the title block because of the thing. Secondly, on the permitting, land management actually only touches a building permit application once, and we actually only touch a business application once, and that's to determine the zoning of it. We are the second agency in this process. For example, business licenses application are given out by the Department of Revenue and Tax, and the actual license is issued by the Department of Revenue and Tax. We are the second agency to touch that. If it's not the correct zoning, it gets bumped off, and they got to come back and prove to us that it is the correct
Yes.
zoning. The same thing with the building permit process.
Right.
So in that building permit process, it's really for us, for land management, to be able to electronically clear that application. Because the way that the process is previous was we had to station a senior planner
Yes.
with about $80,000, $90,000 in salary with benefits, probably more in some cases. We have a very senior planner stationed up at the Department of Public Works
The one-stop, yeah.
to basically do clerical work rather than, senior planner
Right.
work.
I guess, so I know, and there hasn't been complaints about clearances through land management, not many, but I'm just asking, the recommendations of the task force, does land management have a role in, for example, procuring any of those parts to,
No.
Okay, so you're just going to continue with your, if they get it online, if they make it electronic, then you'll be able to,
What we want to do is we want to take back our planner from that
Yes,
process
yes.
so that they're inside the house.
my understanding is you did that already, right?
Yes.
Yeah, good, okay. All right, what about, do you expect any decrease in rent? Do you expect, and what is this arrangement between the landowner or the owner that's being proposed for your new building? I heard that, for example, there was a proposal that Ancestral Ancestral Lands Commission is going to have a role in that. Are you able to explain that?
Senator, thank you very much for that question. I really appreciate that because it's called the Department of Land Management Building, but it's the Chamorro Land Trust that owns the land. They just gave the job to land management to build the building, but even at that, there's really no benefit for the Department of Land Management except free rent for 5 years and then go back to the land trust and consult, to go back and negotiate as to what it should pay. So land management is going to do all that work, and really there's nothing for it. I suspect that the reason why land management was given the job of building the building and enforcing and administering the DLM Building Construction Fund, which has $2,000 in the bank and $788,000 in the books, and $1 million gone out on a plan that is outdated for the building. I think we seriously need to look at that process, whether land management should be the one to build that building. I think it's come a time to do that. And then secondly, on that area down there where the Department of, or the Chamorro Land Trust owns, which is that middle of that vacant lot right next to Hulali, that big block there, the middle of that lot is where Land Trust owns the property for the land management building on there. However, that one lot was made possible by negotiations with surrounding landowners to relocate their private lot somewhere else. Therefore, government could consolidate all their other small pieces into that one big lot to be able to build a building on it. However, Department of Land Management has failed to complete the last land exchange for a fractional lot in that block. It doesn't affect the building, the lot where the building is going to be built, but it was a commitment made by the previous administration to sell a portion of this lot to a private landowner as part of the negotiations to relocate their lot. So they may have 100 square meters, for example, in one section. We asked them, can you move it over to another section, do an exchange, and then, the government can have one contiguous lot, one big lot, rather than a bunch of small ones. That took maybe a couple of years to do that, and that was quite a negotiation session with some very serious and heavy-handed and negotiated private landowners in that area. So that was quite an accomplishment to, to convince a private landowner, hey, we're going to move your lot down there. Is that okay with you? So that we can have a bigger lot here. And that was accomplished, except for one case.
And are you still working on that or not?
Well, that necessitates legislation. I was kind of glad, though, because the director of land management at that time that signed that map is actually a senator now. So,
Oh,
you know, maybe
I see.
maybe he can complete the process at this end. But it does need a bill to be introduced, and it needs legislative review and intervention in order for that last one to happen.
All right, all right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Bora, you said there's a bill to increase fees. Do you know the bill number?
No, it hasn't been introduced. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
It's a draft bill by the previous administration. I believe it was 2016 or 2017 under former Director Mike Borja that
okay.
the Department of Land Management developed that bill. It was brought down to the 34th legislature at that time, but the bill was never really introduced. There were some questions because at that time the oversight chair was questioning some of the increases were like, you know, for 10 cents to 25 cents. I mean, you know, that
Okay.
to do all that legislative work to increase the fees by 15 cents for something, you know, it was just...
Okay, so we'll just wait for you when you believe and you put something together, then we'll consider that. How's that, Mr.
Well,
Bora?
we'll put it together, and the speaker has already requested my oversight chair that she look at it.
We'll join to help you do what you need to do.
We
Okay?
do need it, and thank you for that. You know. And
All
of
right.
course, I have to get clearance from the front office because, you know, I'm not coming down here submitting bills on my own, Senator.
All right. Another one is this, just to advise you, you're probably aware of it. The 36th Guam legislature did submit a resolution and submitted a letter to the governor to convince the governor to give you $15 million in ARP money. And I believe if that money was to or if there's success that it does happen, I think some of the issues you have will be resolved. From equipment to tech, from IT support and whatever you're going to need, I think it'll resolve that. But just hearing, Mr. Bora, what you mentioned about that land, you're going to coordinate to build it, and only for 5 years? I'm not comfortable with that. If you're going to build something, it should be your property or a property of Guam. So I'm going to leave that alone until that becomes an issue to be discussed.
Yeah.
Then we'll bring that up on the floor or in a public hearing, and then we'll move from there. Okay? Senator Taidewi, do you have any questions for the panel?
Mr. Chair, and good afternoon. Thank you so much. It's Ms. Flores, right? Flores, that's right. Thank you, Joe, for your presentation. You're probably one of the smallest budgets, you know, that we're looking at when it comes to land management, but you're a big agency when it comes to, you know, important things such as land, and the lack of equipment was disturbing to know. And I'm looking at your budget, and it's asking for less than last year. Mm-hmm. But yet you still have issues with equipment. It looks like you have 19 people retiring. You have the same amount of employees. According to 2021, you had 37 employees, and then in 2022 you have 37 as well. So you have no plans at all to bring on any additional help.
Well, we had since I've come in, 3 days after I took office, one of our senior employees died. And, you know, when you leave government service with a by death, you take a whole bunch of money with you. You take more than what is budgeted for your positions because there are other items to be paid. Since then, we have had, land management has had 1, 2, 3 retirements, and we had separation, 3 employees separated. And more importantly, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 employees with 40 or more hours of sick leave taken. We had quite a bit of employees, you know, sick. And also, when I came into the department in the records division, the deputy civil registrar had been demoted. So I had to deal with that. Deputy civil registrar is a division head, and took his case to the Civil Service Commission and won it, and of course had to be reinstated. Yes, we are asking for less this year because we did get that grant that would their equipment. Now, our survey equipment is really not an issue. The amount of equipment we have is the issue. Our survey equipment is state of the art at this point. It's just that, in order to do all these, Department of Land Management is the government's only surveyor. The other agencies like GPA and EPA, they have a private contract with a vendor on that. And the Department of Land Management has the only government registered land surveyor who is on the retirement list. And one of the things that the governor has ordered is to see what we can do about building capacity for that division. That division, the chief surveyor, Paul Santos, has worked with GCC. The latest that they had was a boot camp for engineering technicians. I believe that is ongoing and should have it. And we hope to get some employees, some of those people, after they clear that engineering technician boot camp and course, that hopefully some of them will be applying on that. But the biggest danger I think that land management has in terms of the survey division is that we have the only registered land surveyor. If that registered land surveyor retires, we don't have anybody to review the maps that Speaker Terlahi was asking. That's a real critical position. And the guy has got 29 years of service already, I believe.
Joe, what is the, on my spreadsheet here that I'm looking at, there's a GIS/LIS. In 2020, it was 81,751, and then in the last 2 years, there were no funding. What is that, GIS/LIS?
GIS stands for Geographic Information Services, and LIS stands for Land Information Services. It's basically our IT division.
I'm sorry?
It's our Information Technology division. And most of the functions of that division has actually been taken over by OTEC, by the Office of Information Technology. The one position that was left in there, the computer systems analyst, we transferred him over to the director's office. The position is over the director's office.
Okay, and yeah, I'm noticing too, so you transferred this position into the director's office? Okay.
Yes, and Senator, the majority of the GIS work is actually being done by the Bureau of Statistics and Plans.
Yeah, because one of the things that I noticed when I was trying to get some information from Department of Land Management, it seems like there's at least 3 different maps out there, one from the federal side, one from BSP, and one that land management can't seem to find, and to determine the boundary lines between which is government land and which is federal land. And it seems like everybody has these, their own idea of what map to use. And there was a time we were trying to put a one map approach on Guam, and there's contradictions between the federal side and the Government of Guam side on Bureau of Statistics. So has there been any plans to try and find this one map that indicates what is federal and what is Government of Guam boundaries?
You would have to take that by the separate condemnation actions. We do have a map. I do have a map on my wall that shows, federal lands, military lands, but they're not survey level. In other words, they don't have the meets and bounds description on that. You would have to check for the individual condemnation actions. For example, if you're looking at information about boundaries relative to NAS Aga'hågan, you would go to district court, check case number, I believe it's 2150. That would be the NAS taking. And in that condemnation actions, there will be maps. The major disconnect that I see between federal maps and Gov Guam maps and private maps is that the Navy calls their parcels by a different lot name. You know, they would call it Anderson Air Force Base Annex 7. But for the government of Guam, we might call it Lot 5236. And you have to remember when the Navy, when the military condemned these lands, there were, you know, hundreds of lots, and they were odd shape and like that. Once the Navy condemns it, they turn that into straight boundaries. Straight boundaries, but if there's any particular map that you're looking for a purpose, give me a shot and I'll try and see what I can do about finding it. My background is actually not in Government of Guam lands. My background is actually in federal lands that were condemned. That's how I got into this.
Well, it's funny, when I
vision.
was at GITA and we were looking at trying to find the map that everybody can agree to, and we were looking at the net negative, especially because with this military buildup and finding out what the net negative, it's kind of hard to find out your net negative if you don't even know how much property you have on this island or how much the military has.
Yeah.
So that was like 4 years ago. And I went to Department of Land Management, there was no maps. I went to GITA, they had something there, but it was not, you know, well, instead of just belaboring this whole perspective, is I think it's very important that land management put some resources into trying to find that one map that both sides can agree with. How much property does the government of Guam really have, and how much does the federal government? Where are those those lines? And then we can determine the net negative on really how much do they have and how much we have as a government. So it hasn't been done, Joe, so I'm asking if you to look into something like that, and what kind of funding you would need, because you would need at least 3 entities to work on: GITA, Department of Land Management, BSP, and the federal government. All 4 entities to come together to do this one map, one Guam map approach, you know, moving forward.
That,
Yeah.
Senator, that might be a career.
Yeah, well,
Because
it's
when
got to
the,
be done. It's got to be done. I mean, we have to determine how much property and what property belongs to the government of Guam.
And that's what I alluded to back earlier when the military and the federal government condemned these properties. They were not, you know, nice, square and everything. But then when they return it back, you will see that the lines are straight, so that a lot that was taken in whole, when it becomes returned, it might only be a partial return. You know, they didn't return the whole lot. In some cases, they did return the whole lot, but in a lot of cases, you know, surveyors like those nice straight lines and like that. And you see that these parcels that are being returned, 99% of them have nice straight lines, other than, of course, if they were by the ocean or by a river. And of course, that was not the format when they condemned it. They condemned it with the, you know, the irregular lot lines, you know.
Well, it would be nice to have a map to even
Oh,
see
yes,
it,
definitely.
whether it's straight or crooked or you know, zigzag. We need to have some kind of
And I'll take back
accountability of our property.
And I'll take back my comment about a career, because with the technology ongoing, the mapping, GPS,
Overlapping,
you know,
yep.
Google Map and like that,
Right.
certainly, but it is a big project. And something like that would be similar to what Land Management and Bureau of Statistics are working on, which is to develop a zoning map, so that when somebody comes in to do the research, pull out the map of Guam, put your pointer on that lot, click it on it, and it'll tell you what the zoning is, assess value, and like that, you know. So
I'm sure,
that is a needed goal, Senator, yes.
right, and technology is very, very important, you know, to move forward, and at not something that's going to take a lifetime to do either. The other one is, how are you as far as any kind of backlog with the ARC on getting things approved through the ARC?
We don't have any backlog. We, meaning the GLUC. However, there are still some agencies that are lack in giving their position statements.
The reports?
And they're the same people, but we have ARC meetings which feed the GLUC every other Thursday, and these people, come. But I do believe that the response with these position statements are a whole lot better since you introduced your bill, although subsequently vetoed. These directors and these guys have become cognizant of that. But in all fairness, there are some agencies that do take a great amount of time, as they should be on some of these requirements, notably like EPA, Department of Agriculture with endangered species and like that, and of course DPR with that. So those kinds of review are take a little bit longer than, for example, waterworks. Waterworks knows if they have water lines in there and what. But EPA, for example, I believe there are 3 divisions that actually clear an application. So it's like 3 clearances, which is soil, water, and air, I believe. So that's like 3 clearances coming out of EPA.
Joe, do you have any of these reports that are like behind 4 months in providing those individuals, investors, waiting for a report to be finished? Do you have any of them over 3 months old?
I don't believe so, Senator, but
Okay.
I'm not absolutely sure. But I'll sure provide you that information. We do have a spreadsheet on that to be
Okay.
able to show you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Tyree. Mr. Boer, I got one simple question. On the question, on the issue of technology, for tech support, does the department pay OTEC to do service for your department?
Does OTEC what? Oh,
Do you pay OTEC to provide you service?
we actually have in our TAP grant here a request for proposal to buy a server as allowed in the TAP grant, but they actually have our servers. They being OTEC.
So you're not paying them to provide you service then, in other words, for them to provide service, right?
No, as a
Okay.
yeah,
I just want to make sure, because when we do the budget and we identify OTEC and we identify fund for them, I don't expect the agency to start paying them to do what they're getting paid to do,
Well-
what their job is. That's all I wanted to know.
Previous senator, though, and up to now, previously, I believe Land Trust had transferred a $75,000 survey to OTEC, for them, for land trust things. But they actually have and maintain, our DLM servers over there. And as of now, it's always on the cusp, on the brink of being full, which is why in this grant that we asked for, we did ask to purchase another server to do it. But yes, and I believe my conversations with OTEC is that previous to me, he had been indicating to the Department of Land Management under Mike Borja that you have to buy more storage, more storage, more storage. And even now, almost weekly, we get requests from 2 or 3 staff members. My mailbox is full.
No.
OTEC would go in there and delete some files, and then,
Okay, well, I can understand for equipment purposes, I can see that because that becomes your property, but the technical support, in other words, when the technician comes in, I just wanted to make sure that you're not funding their position when we have to budget for that. Just wanted to make sure that.
No, but, OTEC has their own vendors, and they call them land management vendors. So, they are vendors hired to work on land management on our land web, like
Okay.
that. And every once in a while, we would get a bill to it, but, we don't, we can't pay it, no account, no authorization to pay it, and OTEC would go somewhere else.
All right, thank you, Mr. B. Senator Brown, do you have any questions or comments for the panel?
Very much, Mr. Chairman. Certainly, good afternoon to you, Mr. Borja and Ms. Flores. You mentioned with Senator Tello that you have a spreadsheet. You keep track of these maps as they're coming in, for example, for review and approval of land management? Do you keep track of those documents coming in? Because I know I've mentioned this before, Joe, that, one of the consistent complaints I get at my office, and it's more than from one or two people, is the processing of maps. The fact that maps have to go back and forth and checking with land management versus going in, being reviewed, and then corrections be made and the process move forward with that. So I wanted to get your feedback. Do you have a system of tracking so that we actually know how long a map may be sitting with land management versus it being out with a surveyor or whatever the case may be?
Oh, yes, Senator. That is a very robust spreadsheet, as you call it. We can call up and ask. And don't forget that maps are actually reviewed by two divisions, not only the survey division. It's also reviewed by the planning division. And whenever we have, problems with that, it gets returned to the surveyor. But I can tell you, Senator, honestly, that in the last, maybe since January, to my memory, I've had maybe about 7 complaints of maps being held too long. But when I check it, the delay is with the surveyor. Just recently, someone texted me a message, my surveyor says that they turned in the maps 2 weeks ago. I checked on it, and the map was given to the surveyor back in June to make the necessary revisions, and they haven't returned it back. So I would say that probably 99%, if not 100% of the time, at least the complaints that come to me about maps being held back, and they usually come from the owner, not the surveyor. They usually come from the owner or the consultant, or that, how come my map's taking so long? We check our spreadsheet, and we find that the delay is with the surveyor, not with land management.
Then I can assume we can just relay those to you, because some of the complaints also come back that they're not able to get feedback from land management. And again, it's not uncommon, as you know, you've worked in a senatorial office. Members of the public will have a tendency to want to come and complain about the issues. And
there is a change, Senator, on the process now. The maps are reviewed electronically, and only one representative of that surveying office can come in there and request for the status of that. We've had problems before where other people come in to check the status, and they don't transfer the correct information back to the owner. But I'm willing to, the spreadsheet, the system, I think is very robust, both for survey and planning. And I would challenge anybody that says they have a delay of their map, put it up and let me see what the delay is, if there is a delay.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to send them to your office.
Sure.
But there's also feedback that they're just not getting the feedback, or they've made a complaint and
Are these
they're
from
not
the
able to get
surveyors
access.
or from the owners?
It could be, it's from
Yeah.
both.
We
I've
don't
got both.
release the information to the owner. We release the information to the surveyor who submitted the map. That's our relationship concerning
Do you
that
have
map.
the process written out so that when people come in, they know what the process is?
The only people that the survey division deal with are surveyors or their authorized representative.
Well, I just think it would be helpful to get that information out there so people do know, because they may
Sure.
not know and coming in, and then they're not getting the response.
The surveyor knows that.
Yeah, perhaps the surveyor does, but, the average citizen out there may not know that. So, if there is a process or procedure or policy to that effect, it'd be good to have that available just so when people come in, they know. And it's not just one person saying it, that this is actual a former policy, or if they ask for the policy.
Yeah, but
it
the
can be
people that
provided to
usually
them.
come in are the surveyors, not the owners.
Well,
Yeah.
they're knocking on my door, Joe, and I'm not looking for them. I can
Yeah.
put it that way. And it's more than just one or two people that we may know collectively that come in and provide that complaint. So, if the issue can be
let's take
resolved,
a
I
look
think
at
we're
it.
all happy with that.
Let's take a look at individually, because each of those, each of those maps have a different
Sure.
situation.
No, I understand, and I'm no interest in getting into anybody's specific map today. I looked at your budget, and just looking at the positions that you have vacancies on, I have to commend you, the fact that you're able to come in with a lower request than what you had last year, because you're a rarity. Everybody else expects the sky is going to keep, the sky's not falling and money's flowing and everything's good, and, I want this and I want that, and that's all I hear. So it's very good to hear that you're able to keep within your budget. But I do notice you have a number of vacancies, like your land abstractors, land agents, engineering technicians, engineering aides. You don't have a deputy chief surveyor, engineering supervisors. Certainly you have one. You just have one licensed surveyor at Department of Land Management.
Yes, we do, and we have been trying to hire for the deputy chief surveyor, but the salary level there is way below what they can make out in, in private business. And the department one time, maybe two times, went before the Civil Service Commission to do above-step recruitment, but they were denied, So in that particular one, you're going to have to make the salary at least just as attractive as to what is out there, because the salary level that is in that
Sure.
staffing pattern, it doesn't attract the
Well,
licensed
that
surveyor.
may be something to look at, because I am concerned. I like to think land scam ended, and I've said this before 30-plus years ago, but, I know on my own, because I do have a family situation of where I know there's overlap of property. And how does that come to be where land management is signing off on maps that, end up in that situation? I mean, it's great now you can put it on the computer and everything, but it doesn't eliminate those problems, and I do have concern about that. I don't think that's disappeared, and it's not resolved because land management has signed off on maps that overlap. How is that possible?
Well, and there's a misconception on surveying, I think, for some people. Like if a surveyor goes out there and sees a house, surveys the property, and finds that the house is on crossing a property line, land management accepts that because that survey is correct. Now, is there a problem on it? And does land management know of the problem and still signed off on that issue? Yes, because the survey is technically correct. And a lot of times that survey is initiated to find that problem, to landowners and like that. So just because a surveyor comes in, surveys a piece of property, and shows a house or a structure too close to the boundary line, the surveyor doesn't correct that. The surveyor doesn't draw that building, to meet the setback requirements. The surveyor is obligated to show it as built. So if there is a problem out there, surveyor is obligated to put that in there. Otherwise, the map will not get approved. Now, it's kind of, to some people say, well, you knew that there was a problem there. Why did you approve the map? Because that's the reality out there. And the surveyor, the licensed surveyor, certified that, that house is too close to it. So
yeah.
that's how some of that map. Now, if you're maybe looking for a case where the records show that the lot is 10 square meters and the map comes in and it shows 20 and we sign off on it, yeah, that's a problem. That would be our mistake, because the survey division not only researches maps, but it also researches the document that declares that lot to be, 10 square meters. And if that's the case, that's, So the surveyor is obligated legally through his ethics to show what is out there.
No, and I don't argue the ethics and the licensing of the surveyor and what their obligations are. Certainly, they need to meet that, otherwise there's impact that can happen to their license. But it is a concern as to how effectively is land management verifying what's being brought in, because we as a public have to have an expectation. When we go to land management, when we receive title on property, ultimately it's what you want to be able to have, is title on your property to be able to build or whatever the case may be. To verify that somebody's checking to make sure that those are, exact and it's correct, and it's not encroaching, or that someone else, an adjacent property owner, is encroaching. And then land sold to other parties thinking they have clear title, then you go back and research and end up finding out that they've encroached on somebody else's property that they may have gotten title already years earlier.
Yeah.
And that's not, I got my own family situation. I don't need to belabor it today, but knowing that can happen, has happened, it's like, to what degree is land management verifying what comes in to make sure that we don't have funny business happening? And it's not just, we remember Tommy Anderson's case 30-plus years ago, but what's happening today? How do we have confidence? Because there has to be, you're the government entity that we have to come to ultimately, except court, which becomes a very expensive process for people to have to go litigate.
Yeah,
to go back to
we
their
don't check
original
for we don't check for encroachments. That's the licensed surveyor's obligation. So if we get a map in there, and map in Tamuning, we don't go out there to the field to see that, to check if there's an encroachment on that map. That's the obligation of that private surveyor.
Right, but even with regards to land management records, I mean, if you're the custodian ultimately of this, if you're issuing title to property, there has to be some mechanism that exists in the government to verify that what is being issued ultimately by land management, there's some legitimacy to it.
Yes, and
Because
that-
we already know that there have been actions of surveyors, including licensed surveys in the past, that have not been.
Well,
You know, people are not going to know if the jungle's still out there, that their map has been redrawn or someone has encroached on their property, and then land management is issuing title. How do you issue title without verifying the process or ensuring that the boundaries that are being received?
There is a process for that, and it's, you know, based on the recorded documents, but it's hard for land management to control, you know, criminal activity if somebody wants to come in there and do that. So if somebody comes in there and requests for title, whatever recorded documents are, you know, attached to that particular piece of property, yes, we would go in there and do it. Have there been times when titles have been altered? I'm sure, over the last, you know, years. Have there times when maps have been altered? Yes. My most recent experience was this guy was going to mortgage his property. He was going to build a house, and I knew where the lot was, and when I looked at the plans, there was a house missing on the plans. In other words, so over in Chalampago, they submitted plans to build a house, but the plans did not include a pre-existing house on it because the application would have been denied. You can't build two houses on that. So there have been submissions like that. In that particular case, we only found that out because I had personal knowledge of that area, but in cases like that, something like that could slip by.
Well, and I just think those are the things we need to put an extra effort to check into so that we have some confidence that, you know, while you have a very nice system and we can pull up our lot number on a piece of property and show the boundaries and adjacent properties and that looks all wonderful, but if the information being put in is not correct to begin with, if there's not confidence that the information and the titles that are being granted by land management are legit in some cases, then it creates a whole other mess.
Yeah.
That's why otherwise, why do we need land management if we're just going to be rubber stamping maps being brought in?
I think that's why we have,
verification?
you know, the title companies. The title companies, they check on us, you know.
I understand, but even that process, how are they going to correct? Some of these things can't best be corrected by money, especially if it's existing property that someone else has encroached on. Someone else has taken that property and sold it to someone who's bought it, who thinks they have clear title to the property that they supposedly believe they purchased, only to find out that that property has title prior on another owner that owns that land. So,
And that's where the title company comes in.
I understand, but even that doesn't correct the circumstance of the fact that we have to have a custodian somewhere that keeps the legal documents that verify legitimacy, unless someone's criminal, of course, and then you can go and pursue that. I'm just saying we have to have in the government some system of verifying land. If it's filed and it has title, we are of the assumption that there's some legitimacy to it, just because of these practices that have happened.
That's when it comes down to that, Senator, that's usually the court. And a true torrent system is actually administered by the court, not by an administrative agency.
I understand, but I think we should have an expectation that land management has a way of going out and verifying. Land management goes out and does surveys on government properties. There just has to be a system, I believe, put in place so that there's some protective measure of verification. Because a simple landowner is not going to know that on his own or her own. There's got to be some process in the government that we have confidence that what's being recorded is legitimate. Mm-hmm. For the most part, that there is a way to check and balance that process. Otherwise, why do we need land management? Really, when you get right down to it, it's almost like jungle rules, and if it doesn't work out, go to court, which is a very expensive and cumbersome process for most people out there that can't afford that process. It becomes very expensive. So I just wanted to relay that. So with regards to your vacancies, Joe, because you're not asking to address this, I mean, where does that put land management's capabilities? I mean, you do have, looking at each of your divisions, I mean, looking at your fleet of vehicles, they're very aged. You have a number of them that are inoperable. What does that mean to the capacity of land management to operate?
We have very good employees, Senator, and contrary to what some people may think, we have some very good employees in there. But and anytime you always need, an extra hand, and in cases like that. However, we are cognizant of our level, our budget ceiling on that, and we try to have, like I said, our biggest issue is personnel, not only as a surveyor. And we have that in here, and we hope to be able to get some funding to hire these other people, the other positions that are vacancy. Some of them, like I said, have just been recent. I think since I came in, we've probably lost about maybe 6 employees, and we look to lose another 3 employees through attrition and retirement here. The one employee that went to DPW, actually, I was kind of surprised, but that employee went on to a better job and like that.
So are there, of these positions, I mean, since it seems to be Christmas and offers are being made left and right for submittals, I mean, are any of these positions that you don't have funded here that you need? Because I have to tell you, while we have many things in the government we do, there's certain things I think we need to do well. And one of the things we need to strengthen, obviously, is our operations at land management, because so much development and everything else that we're looking at resides in our ability to literally build from the ground up, which comes with your certification and title. Definitely. And all that important stuff that comes with it. So while I understand we're looking at funding other things in Governor of Guam, I don't think some of those things are as critical as the work that you're doing. Is that something you're looking at addressing, and in terms of, you have the positions listed, but there's no request for funding adjacent to those positions?
No, they're not in this budget, Senator. You're right.
Is there anything critical of those positions that you need at this point that you would, not a question of like to have, but you need to have to ensure greater efficiency at land management?
I think I'd like to say that they're all critical and like that, but we are cognizant of our budget ceiling on that. And one of them, like I said, originally was to build capacity. So we are working with the front office, with BBMR, to see what we can do about funding those positions.
Well, and also for succession, just because you have for those that are leaving, to have succession plan.
And that's what we would like. The succession plan really is not to wait until that senior person retires and then hire somebody.
You want them
trained. We would like to be able to be in there at the same time. And however, our budget doesn't allow for that, but so that that senior employee that's planning on retiring is training this new employee, and through attrition, maybe that budget to
well, or like having your assistant, your deputy chief surveyor, for example. I mean, yep. Those type of things that you need. If you are fortunate, and again, it's almost 2.5 months, I think, since the legislature reviewed its priority listing for funding for the federal funds that have come in. If you're fortunate to receive it, because we still haven't heard anything to date from the administration on what their ultimate plans are for the use of that money. What would you look at prioritizing that you can benefit from if you were to receive additional federal funds for your operations?
I think you senators brought it out, which is personnel, build capacity.
What if you can't use it for hiring, but use it for other upgrades in your operation? What would that be?
I don't want to purchase anything just to be able to purchase it. Like I said, we're fine with our survey equipment. Another one would be okay. That will process things faster. IT is always in need of upgrades. Like I said, we had, our computers half of them didn't meet the security protocol. We addressed that by applying for a grant to upgrade our system. So other than additional people, additional hands, and not just a body, but a warm body with brains and a willingness to work between 8 to 5 and hopefully put in 6 hours of the day, it's basically personnel, as you can see by the number of vacancies.
One other question with regards to your map inventory, how do you secure that? I mean, especially the older historical maps on your records. I mean, I know a lot of things are digitized now, but how do you address your original documents?
Nowadays, the maps are scanned, but the original documents are put into what we call an original vault. So we do have a vault system there with a halon fire suppression system, the dust, not the water. Mm-hmm. So we do have that. We do have a special section of our land management in ITC that has that vault for original documents.
And it still has capacity to accommodate for what period of time?
We can still, there's, I believe right now, maybe about half of that space could be utilized for additional storage, And then land management a couple of years ago shredded the documents that were out in the public library. When you record a document, a transaction, you're required to give 3 documents, 3 copies. One is the original, which goes into the original vault. One goes to the public library, which we don't do now. And the third one actually goes to Revenue and Tax to make adjustments in the tax bill. And slowly on that copy to Revenue and Tax, we're slowly transferring that into a digital electronic transmission rather than a hard copy paper. So we still have room in our floor plan now for additional storage of hard copy originals. Maps, I believe, more and more now, they are being digitized and stored now.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks so much. I mean,
Okay.
I
Thank
mean,
you, Senator.
Joe, certainly the land management benefits from your history. I mean, I know you mentioned your expertise was in the federal side, the federal land, but certainly over the years, I mean, you're looked at as one of the, one of the few individuals that have the historic knowledge that you have coming into Department of Land Management. And I know that the department benefits while you're there, but certainly when you do leave, when that time does come, I mean, it's wanting to make sure that there's voids there that can still be filled, because there's still a lot of issues at land management, especially historical
I
side of
actually,
it.
Senator, actually came out of retirement for this job, and
No,
when
I
I started
understand.
this land thing, I actually had black hair.
Yeah, I remember you back then.
Yes,
I think we remember each other back then. We can go back 30 plus years.
we've done inspections
Been
out
at
in
it a long
Benito.
time. But thank you so much for coming in and providing your testimony on your budget.
Thank you,
very
Senator.
much, Mr.
All right, thank you, Senator Brown. Senator Perez, do you have any questions or comments for the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Director Borja
Good
and Ms.
afternoon.
Flores, for your presentation today. Yeah, and looking over your budget, you mentioned there's 13 critical positions in the planning division. And is this, I just want to confirm, is this included in the budget request?
Which positions again? I'm sorry.
According to your budget proposal under the Land and Housing and Natural Resource Planning Division, you stated that there are 13, you've identified 13 critical positions in this division. So I just want to confirm that this is included in the budget request.
13, no.
So it's not included in the
No,
budget
it's
request?
not included in that.
Oh, wow. Okay, I think that's pretty serious, because according to your mandates, you have 21 mandates in this division alone.
I might be 25, I think, in that division alone. I think the planning division does have the most mandates, because the planning division also provides support work for the Guam Land Use Commission. They provide support work for the Guam Seashore Protection Commission, and they take these, a lot of these legal non-conforming requests. Somebody builds a house, builds an outside kitchen or a garage too close to the boundary line, goes into refinance, remortgage the property, and the appraiser finds out that the outside kitchen is too close or whatever. Then they come to land management to do that. Planning division does have a lot of mandates, Senator, yes. And recently with that, when I came into land management, 3 weeks later, the chief planner resigned. So we had to recruit for a chief planner. And then 2 of our planners were up at DPW clearing permits. We brought them back. And then we promoted one of them. And then we hired another planner too on that. But we could use a couple more, but because of our budget ceiling, there was just no way we could hire a lot of people. That would be one of the divisions, I think, that needs a staffing upgrade on it. Yes, you are right, Senator.
In addition to this division is important because it deals with the land use plans, which, in your opinion, does it need updating our land use plans?
You mean the land use plan?
Yes.
I certainly think so. One of the things that wasn't done several years ago, the legislature passed the Southern Master Development Plan because there was some development being planned for the South. And so there was, so that had to be done. And unfortunately, the lead person in that endeavor was at that time the mayor of Jongnya, and he didn't have time, I guess, to do that. So nothing has been done with that plan, on there. So certainly the Southern Master Plan has to be developed. And I take that back, not that nothing has been done on it. I know that the Bureau of Statistics and Plan is working on engaging that. The Northern Plan, that's always been, needing update, and it's been updated piecemeal at one time. For example, the governor is authorized to select any lot up in northern Guam for a new public cemetery. The public cemetery Tigak is full, but the northern land use plan says no cemeteries up north. So, that at least needs some review, if not an updating. Central plan, of course, is always changing. And you have Manilao and Jigo that are the fastest growing communities here. And you probably do need a review on the land use in that area.
And that would also require more staffing on your part then?
Yep.
The other thing is climate change. So, we're expected to see sea levels rise and, loss of land on the coastal areas. Would that also require additional work? Would that increase your workload as far as, redrawing the maps of Guam as far as government land's concerned?
Something like that, actually, the lead is taken by Bureau of Statistics and Plans. I know that they've been working with the Army Corps of Engineers developing the National Flood Insurance Program, as well as, floodplain maps on there. And the people that are working on that at Bureau of Statistics and Plans, and they're coordinating agencies with them, the big push there is flooding and climate change.
Okay, just a couple more questions regarding the crew that you mentioned as far as surveying. If you can, it costs about $276,000 to add another crew. That doesn't
Add another equipment, that's just for equipment.
Equipment, correct. That doesn't include the vehicles, does it? The cost of vehicles?
No, our vehicles are fine. We have pretty new vehicles. The director has a very nice vehicle that I allow, whatever division to use. And of course, the survey division requires actual pickup trucks, and they are in pretty good shape. And the division, their survey division, they take good care of maintenance of those vehicles. So right now, we don't really need any vehicles.
In regards to the TAP grant, is that the same one that Ernst & Young is doing in
No.
regards to IT assessment?
No. This,
Okay.
the TAP grant is actually almost a procurement grant. And Jean, can I see the? Yeah, so for that TAP grant, what we have in there, the $309,000, it's cabling for 75 drops, because the cabling system at land management is with Cat 5 cables. Now we are up to Cat 6 cables. $90,000 for the LAN web maintenance, 14 workstations, network racks, 24 switches, these things where everybody hooks in and then they get connected to the main line. We had 5 rugged laptops for the survey guys when they go out in the field. These are rugged laptops. And of course, we have the file server for the $50,000, high performance storage. And we have a main distribution of ports. So these are basically hardware that we have here. The only thing in here that is not hardware really is that maintenance contract for the LAN web.
Yeah, there is another grant, TAP grant, that is being done currently. It's a 6-month grant, and they're assessing the IT needs, and part of that is land management. So I don't know if you're aware of that. It's BSP's monitoring that one. So
Yes.
perhaps it's good to connect with them if they haven't
BSP,
already.
Senator BSP always thinks of land management. So we're very fortunate that we have planners over there. especially the grant writers that are always on the lookout for grants that may be beneficial to the Department of Land Management.
Okay, great. And I guess one more thing, you know, I'm a big fan of this boot camp idea. And boot camp, surveyors boot camp that you mentioned earlier, it's, as you mentioned, it's very critical. The positions are critical. We might lose institutional knowledge, and including yours. I think you have a lot to offer institutionally as far as the information, and I just want to encourage you to pursue that, work with you know, government stakeholders and partners to make this a reality so we can fill these much needed gaps in Department of Land Management and other land agencies.
Actually, Senator, that was an initiative that was taken by, initiated by the Chief of Survey, Paul Santos, on that. And prior to this boot camp, he had worked out an arrangement with a GCC. He's actually an adjunct professor up at GCC teaching engineering and surveying courses and like that. But he did not have a good turnout the very first time around, and some of the people, you know, dropped out of there. So we looked over and worked with GCC for this boot camp now. That's turning out all right. But the chief surveyor of land management actually teaches at GCC for these engineering courses, hopefully to guide these students to towards a surveying job or a survey. We do have in the department, I believe, maybe 3 people that may be qualified to become surveyors, but there's still a test that you have to take, and I guess they may not be willing to devote the time at this stage of their career to try and obtain a surveyor's license. So we're looking for the young ones.
So, yeah, thank you so much. I do look forward to maybe developing this further, considering that, you know, a lot of people are looking for jobs. This is a potential opportunity to diversify our economy, especially with this very much needed expertise. So thank you so much for your presentation and answering our questions, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank my colleagues for their question. There being that we completed all the questions, Mr. Bora. This concludes the budget hearing for the Department of Land Management. The committee will continue to receive testimony. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriations, Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. Agustin at gmail.com or to my office located at Rand Care Building, 2nd floor, Suite 3, 761 South Marine Corps Drive, Tumuning, Guam. Since much for attendance, sir, and your participation in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching. The budget hearing on Bill 55-36 COR is relative to the Department of Land Management is now adjourned. It is 5:14. Please be safe and happy liberation. Take care, sir.